Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second day of our growth conference. We have had an amazing start to our event yesterday. We had a session that was on fire. We heard from the ever passionate Lazola on women in environmental sustainability and climate action. We heard from the charismatic Sanjeeb in talking about women's role in healthcare. Today, we have got a powerhouse of speakers ready to impart all their knowledge and learning on us. And today, what are we going to be covering? We're going to be covering entrepreneurship. We're going to be covering media, technology, education and skills, and how does this impact women? How can women contribute to this? How can we learn from this? So we are looking forward to the most amazing second day of the conference. Please do tell us where you're joining us from. Use the chat function at the bottom of the screen. We can see people have started to join. Please feel free to let us know where you're joining from. I'd highly recommend and suggest you also start following TGC on LinkedIn. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And let us know when you've done that. Write done in the chat box next to us. Please do keep on introducing yourself to us. Let us know who has joined. I can see a few names popping up. Please feel free to just add in the chat where you've come in from. Tell us if you joined us yesterday. Did you enjoy the two sessions we discussed yesterday? Are you looking forward to what we are going to be covering today? Is there anything specific you would like to learn from today? And what more can we do to provide you with the tools you need and empower you to grow? That is what we are here to do. We are here to learn and grow. And we have got in the chat box our link to our YouTube page. So please do follow us on that YouTube page. You will be updated regularly with our conferences that run through the year, the various topics we cover. And I must say, some topical issues as well, some relevant issues, lots to learn from, lots to grow from. So please feel free to join us via LinkedIn, via YouTube. I can see a few more people have joined us today. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Sandra. Nice to hear from you. You are joining us from Nigeria. So we have representation from Nigeria today. Who else have we got joining us today? Our powerhouse of speakers, as I say, join us again from a variety of countries across the world today. Yesterday, we had Lazola from South Africa. We had Sanjeeb from India. Today, I believe we have Weluche joining us from the UK. We have Nana joining us from the UK. I believe we have a couple of other speakers as well joining us from the Gambia. And I am looking forward to what we are going to learn today. I can see Nana joining us from the UK. Thank you, Nana, for joining in on the chat. Our LinkedIn handle is also in the chat, so please click on it. Please follow us on LinkedIn. It's the ideal way to be updated and keep updated with our conference events. Fantastic. We have got Umu from Ghana. How is Ghana this evening? And Susanna from Ghana. We have got representation from Ghana. How exciting. I hope you are both well. I hope things are well in Ghana with yourselves. Anybody else who's joining us, feel free to join in. Please do let us know where you are joining from. What are you aiming to get out of today? What can we help with as well in the future? We are interested in hearing from you, from all our delegates. Whilst we have others joining us, conscious of time, why don't we kick off today? And before we start with our first speaker, the first and foremost thing I'd like to do is welcome our host, Noella, to say a few words, Noella, if you don't mind. The floor is yours. Noella? Believe she is here. Let's give her a second while she just rejoins. I can see we've got Favor from Nigeria. Hi, Favor. How are you doing? Hope your day has been well. Right. Anybody else? Who else have we got joining us? It's nice to see the numbers are creeping up. And let's see where, Noella, let me just double check. Are you with us? Right, let's see where we get to. Otherwise, who have we got here? We've got Shakirat from Nigeria. Welcome, Shakirat. Hope you are well today. It's lovely to hear people on the chat. And we have Noella with ourselves. Hi, Noella. Please, may I hand the floor over to you to give us just a few words of introduction, and then we can start with our first speaker for today. I think you might be on mute, Noella. There you go.
Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you and I can hear absolutely clearly.
Okay, great. Something is showing on my screen that I need to take out. I was just wondering why it is showing. Can you still see me?
Yes, we can see you
Can you hear
clearly.
me?
We can hear you absolutely clearly.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. I am really honored once again to have everybody here at this very important occasion, the Growth Conference. Like I mentioned yesterday, my joy is twofold. One, we've been able to birth a dream that has helped a lot of women gain awareness, clarity on a lot of issues that affect them, both as career women, as women who have families, and as entrepreneurs. Today, we are celebrating the first anniversary of the Growth Conference. The Growth Conference was born in 2024, and we are 1 year old this year, and we are truly, truly excited. This is a landmark event for us. And this conference is one where we celebrate the strength of women, what women can do, their achievements, what women represent in our society and in our nation generally. It's more than just a conference. And like I mentioned yesterday again, it is also a call for all of us to celebrate the strength of women and reaffirm the role that they play in the families, in the communities, and in the nations. Everywhere you go, be it in the classroom or in the boardroom or in the farms, in healthcare, industry, everywhere, you see that women have been at the forefront of progress. And women have been architects and guardians of our future. They are not just nurturers. Women have so much more to give. And to this year's theme for International Women's Day said, Accelerate Action. What we are doing today, the theme of this conference, which is Women as Nation Builders, is to further accelerate the action, to get women more involved, open more doors for women, and to bring more seats that include women at the table of decision making. So today we gather not only to exchange ideas, but today we are going to also ignite fresh ideas, and for us to also, it's an opportunity for us to honor those people on whose shoulders we've been standing for a very long time, women who have paved way for the younger generation to emerge. So we're going to have conversations that will influence policies. We believe these conversations will influence policies, and not just influence policies, but these conversations will also shift mindsets. They will shape my mindset, they will shape your own mindset as well, and then redefine some possibilities that we never even knew existed. So it is my belief and my wish, my sincere wish, that at the end of this 3-day conference, where we have assembled some powerhouse speakers, men and women of influence, professionals in their fields, that after our interaction with them, all of us are going to leave empowered, really, really empowered to continue growing, to continue leading in our various spheres, and to keep connecting with one another. The Growth Conference is not just a place where we learn, it's also a place where partnerships and collaborations are forged. Thank you so much. We also use this opportunity to thank those who have made the Growth Conference dream reality. Those who have hosted our regional conferences, last year. Last year, we were able to host 6 conferences. Apart from the international conference we hosted last year, we also had some very dedicated women host our regional conferences. So we had the Growth Conference with Africa, which was hosted by our dear Genevieve. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
My screen is frozen. We also had the Growth Conference, West Africa, hosted by our own dear Dr. Genevieve Duncan. Dr. Jenny, are you? Dr. Genevieve, are you here? I saw her somewhere. So Dr. Genevieve Duncan hosted the Growth Conference Ghana last year. We had Weluche. Weluche is one of the speakers for today's event. Weluche hosted the Growth Conference UK. Weluche, are you here? Please spotlight Weluche. These women are the reason we still have the Growth Conference moving ahead, because this is a mission. Yes, Weluche. Okay, Dr. Jenny, I'll come back to you. So this is Weluche. Weluche is based in the UK. So she hosted the Growth Conference UK last year. And the theme, the Growth Conference UK was focused on women empowerment and financial and economic empowerment of women. So please, let's give a resounding applause to Weluche. It was such an amazing event last year. I mean, all of us went really, really enlightened on how to manage our finances, grow our finances, expand our finances. Thank you, Weluche. So you're going to still hear from Weluche today, still on finance. Thank you. So Dr. Genevieve, she said she is here. Please spotlight Dr. Jenny.
Hi.
Hi,
I'm
Dr.
so happy to
Jenny.
be here. How are we all
We are
doing?
excited to have you. We are
Yes.
doing great. Thank you so much. Please, can we
And I'm sure
spotlight Dr. Jenny?
yesterday was fantastic.
It was amazing. Could you turn on your
Great.
camera, Dr. Jenny? I can't even see you.
Oh, my camera is not supposed to be turned on, but I'll turn it on.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you
yes.
so much, Dr. Jenny.
You're
Oh,
welcome. Thank you too.
you're on the road. Good to have
Yes.
you here. So Dr. Jenny actually hosted the Growth Conference West Africa last year, and it was such a superb event. We didn't want to go. People didn't want to leave.
I
Thank you so
know.
much, Jenny.
I know.
And then
And
Kruti, thank you so
thank
much,
you.
Dr. Jenny. Kruti Shah hosted the Growth Conference India. Is Kruti here? Okay, and then our lovely Susan Chibanga hosted the Growth Conference Southern Africa. Susan is here also as one of the speakers. Susan, where are you? Please spotlight Susan. Susan, could you turn on your camera?
Yes, I'm here, Noella. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure indeed to host the Growth Conference Southern Africa. Thank you.
It was such a rich event. The discussions were so intellectual. I mean, we talked about boardroom politics, boardroom this, boardroom that, and then the people who, a lot of women actually started nursing the idea of, trying to get into the boardroom after that conference. You gave us so much confidence, Susan. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we had our own Dr. Hilda Bahati. She hosted the Growth Conference East Africa. I don't know if Dr. Hilda is here. She's not here. We still thank her again and again and again for all she did for us. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you and welcome once again. I yield the mic to you, Tina.
Thank you, Noella. Thank you so much for those words and actually just so beautifully articulating how far the Growth Conference has come in 1 year, all the involvement from all the ladies, and we can look forward to an even better year ahead and even more growth ahead. So thank you so much. Right, let's start off with our speakers for the day. Before I do that, just a quick reminder, if you have any friends, family or colleagues who you think would be interested, drop them a text now. They can still join and learn from from all our speakers today, grow together. And as we said yesterday, unity in numbers. So please feel free to remind them and hopefully they'll be able to join us. So let's kick off with our first speaker today, who is none other than Weluche, who we saw earlier on. Weluche, I am so honored to introduce Weluche today. She is one of our hosts for the Growth Conference UK, and she is here today to speak to us about entrepreneurship and economic development. Weluche is a distinguished financial professional, chartered banker, and Doctor of Business Administration candidate, offering a robust academic background, strong business acumen, and proven financial expertise. She brings to the table over 20 years of extensive experience within the banking and finance sector, having earned a distinguished reputation as a thought leader across 4 prominent commercial banks in Nigeria. She's a delegate for UN Women UK, involved in enhancing access to financial services for women and marginalized communities, driving meaningful change and promoting economic empowerment on a global scale. Central to her professional ethos is a dedication to fostering innovation and inclusivity. She champions environments where diversity thrives and every voice is valued. I can think of nobody else who is better placed to talk to us today about women in entrepreneurship and economic development. Welcome, Weluche. The floor is yours. I think you might be on mute, Weluche. Apologies.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure we have some gentlemen in our midst this evening. Thank you so much, Hina. Welcome everyone to today's session. Last year, I had the privilege of hosting the Growth Conference UK, and it was amazing. I want to especially welcome my team from the UK. I can see Ras is here with us. Hi, Ras. Thank you very much. And welcome to all our guests. The movement continues. I'm so glad with the progress we're making with the Growth Conference, the impact we're making, and it can only get better. So it's my pleasure to welcome everyone to our session today for 2025. This evening, we're going to be talking about women as drivers of economic growth. Like we know, women are powerful. Women contribute trillions to the global GDP, yet they are still underrepresented in sectors that drive high economic output. In Nigeria, for example, women run nearly 60% of the informal businesses. In the UK, women-led enterprises contribute over 105 billion annually. So when women thrive, we see lower rates. If these figures are not economic leadership, then I wonder what is. Let's start with the fundamental truth. Economic development doesn't happen in isolation. It's rooted in people, and women are the very heart of it. From the local market women in Lagos to the tech entrepreneurs in London, women are creating jobs all over the world, solving community challenges, and investing back into education, families, healthcare, nutrition, just name it. According to McKinsey, one second, please. Women invest more, excuse me, just 1 minute. So women participated equally in global economy, according to McKinsey. And they said that with women, we could add about 12 trillion to the global GDP by 2025. And this is 2025. This is already a missed opportunity because governments haven't acted, financial institutions haven't acted enough. During my experience working in the banking industry in Nigeria, I had the privilege of working with so many female entrepreneurs, and I know the value that women bring to the table. With the right support, women are able to scale their businesses. I'll give an example with one of the customers I onboarded at the time. This woman was running with just a retail outlet. And by the time she got the support just through micro lending, she was able to scale her business. And within just 18 months, she opened she opened one outlet in Enugu and one in Abuja. How did she achieve that? This was an entrepreneur that didn't even know the capacity she had. Just looking at her books, it appeared, very simple. But when we looked deeper into her books, we found that she was moving over 6 figures monthly in cash flow. She employed about 5 people at the time, and with the right support, she was able to employ 20, 30, and has continued to grow. So women always reinvent. Studies show that they put up to 90% of their income back into the households, into the communities, compared to about 30 to 40% that men do. This creates ripple effects in everything from nutrition to school attendance, making their economic power a multiplier for societal being. Then talking about the access to finance and opportunities that women have. Despite the power that women have, access to capital remains one of the major challenges that women face. Women entrepreneurs face major challenges in financing, accessing financing. Let's talk about the statistics. Women-owned businesses globally receive just about 2% of the venture capital funding. In sub-Saharan Africa, for example, less than 10% of the formal credit is directed to women-led SMEs. Even in developed countries, female founders often receive smaller loan amounts under stricter terms, for whatever reason. What I would say is that it's simply because the systems were not built with women in mind. Women are often likely to own land. They're often less likely to own things like land or other collaterals that financial institutions would normally require to give funding. And they're also likely to be in the informal sector. A lot of them lack simple things as business registration, financial records, or even have bankable status. Most of the time, women play in the informal sector. And this is why they're not really as recognized as they should be. For there to be change, financial institutions need to redefine what it means to be creditworthy. For example, from my experience in the banking industry, most of the times when people approach the banks for financing, most of the times you have to provide collateral. And you know that women are disadvantaged in this aspect. Most of the times the women do not have the collateral. They do not own lands in their names. In Africa, for example, it's not normal for women to have properties registered in their names. Most of the times, women purchase properties and they still in their husbands' names. By the time they approach the banks for financing, it's almost difficult. It's almost impossible for them to get the necessary support that they need from the banking. So in my experience, a lot of banks have done so much in this aspect, but we're not yet where we're supposed to be. A lot of banks are still into collateral lending, which does not support the growth of women in business. Finance is not just about loans. It's also about opportunities in procurement, for example. What's the percentage of women representation in the procurement space? There's a project we're doing right now, and after the CSW 68 last year, we're currently doing a project for the UN Women UK where we're trying to see women representation in the procurement space. And as at date, it's still about 2% representation. This keeps women disadvantaged in the trade and procurement space. Governments have to do better. The corporate lenders have to do better in terms of making financing or creating the opportunities to make women thrive in business. Then talking about the strategies to overcome the gender-based barriers. We're going to talk about the strategies because in finance, it's all about strategy. Even when the capital is available, many women face structural and cultural limitations, which limits how far they can go in business. For example, time poverty. Women do 3 times more unpaid care work than men do. most of the times, women are expected to be the ones at home taking care of the children. They're not paid for this care that they provide for the family. There's limited networks. There are, mainly men-dominated networks in the business space. There's also confidence gap. Studies show that women are more likely to underestimate their business potential or delay pitching until they are about 100% ready. I mentor a lot of women, and from my experience, we find out that many times women do not even know the potential that they have. This could be because they lack mentorship. They don't even have the confidence because the system has wired them to, believe that they can't do a lot of things that they're able to do. So how do we even break the systemic challenges? First of all, we'll have to build a support ecosystem. Mentorship is not an option. It's critical here. Women need mentorship. We need more platforms where experienced women can support early-stage entrepreneurs. In one of the organizations, I'm a director in Afempreneur, where we mentor young women, where we support them to launch and grow their businesses. You find out that a lot of them just need that mentorship, where they will be guided, where they will be, shown the direction on how to grow. And it's been amazing the result that we have seen from, the mentorship that we provide for them. It's also important that we begin to recognize unpaid care as economic work. Because the work women do, providing care, is priceless. If we have to place a price on it, I don't know what the figure is going to be. So it's time to change the narrative. We must move on from helping women to positioning them as, economic leaders, media, government and institutions and all that, to spotlighting them and, telling their success stories, not just as exceptions, but blueprints. Most of the times we celebrate women's success in the economic space as, exceptions. It shouldn't be so, because women are scattered all over the places, operating businesses in the informal sector. So regardless of the figures we have showing the contribution women make economically, a lot of these things are still undocumented. So I don't think that women need rescuing. What we need is recognition. They don't lack the potential. Women have the potential to add value to the economy, but they lack access. Like I said, women are not well represented in the space of procurement. We're not represented. We don't have equal opportunity when it comes to accessing finance to even grow the business. So I think if we're able to build systems around the strengths that women have, the entire economy will rise more from there. Thank you, Hina. That's it. I would like to take some questions to, throw more light on how women have contributed to the economy.
Thank you, Oluche. That was a very, very well thought out, informative session that got the grey matter rolling, I think, with many, because I can see some questions coming up. So if you're okay, Oluche, may I start off with a question? Mm-hmm. You mentioned mentorship and the importance of having mentorship, particularly for women, to help them progress and grow. Mm-hmm. And I wrote a question down here, and coincidentally, the same has popped up on the chat. Okay. In terms of how do we deliberately create the platform for women to have ready access to mentorship? It's not always intuitive or straightforward, I feel, in many industries. Mm-hmm. So how can we build that platform, but equally, how can women themselves, what tools can they implement to sort of reach out and get the right type of mentorship for them?
Okay, mentorship is everything. It accelerates learning and confidence. Okay, a lot of women out there need support in terms of mentorship. Networking opens doors to funding. It opens doors to collaborations and market access. Women often operate in silos, and I don't think it's productive. By connecting them, we amplify innovation and support. So we need more women-led business hubs, peer mentorship programs, and inclusive industry events. Mentorship plays a crucial role in empowering women. Like I said, at Fempreneurs, what we have done is creating a platform for women in business in sub-Saharan Africa. What we do is starting from the scratch with them, providing financial literacy, providing hands-on support. And it's been amazing. You find out that a lot of them have big dreams, big ideas, wonderful business ideas, but they do not even know where to start. Some of them even have challenges as little as not having registered businesses. They never even thought it was possible. So we provide mentorship for them in terms of guiding them, teaching them, providing, just that financial literacy. It's all encompassing. And I've seen that work. Mentorship is everything. You, especially for the young women in business, it's for everyone, not just the young people. But I'm just talking about the project that we're currently doing. It's been amazing. A lot of times people have the ideas, but they just don't know how to go about it. So when you have other women supporting women, we all do better. So mentorship is everything. So for every woman in the room still wondering and, still confused about how to go about growing your business or even launching your business, get you a mentor. It's very, very important. The mentors are there to guide you, they're there to support you. It works all the time. You can never get it wrong. So mentorship and networking go hand in hand. So while you're doing that, also intentionally make sure you're networking and learning and also sharing and, growing together.
Yes. So I think what I'm hearing is in terms of like the project that you mentioned is an example that provides that mentorship opportunities for women. Is there potentially a role there for them to put the spotlight on themselves and not advertise, but almost put out there in the open that this is the mentorship we can provide and these are the advantages? And perhaps equally, maybe, do you think it's fair to say that when you have women in that position who can provide the mentorship, they themselves should let it be known so that those who are looking for mentorship, it makes it that much more easier for them?
Both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Women have to make it known that they provide mentorships. For example, if you have a platform that provides mentorship, it's important you take it out there. Visibility is very important. It's also good that the mentee or potential mentee makes herself available for mentorship. And that's where networking comes in, okay? Yeah. You also have to be visible. You have to network. It's when you network that you get information. When you network, you get the right information of where to get the right mentorship, who to approach for mentorship. And I can tell you that there are so many women out there supporting other women. Women are always willing to help. There are so many platforms out there providing formal and informal mentorship to support women in business.
Yes. So yes, it takes both halves to make it work. Yeah. There's an interesting comment that's come up on the chat as well, saying it's sponsorships that can catapult women into the career or entrepreneurship progression that they need, as this kind of support would help them show their competency with confidence. So I think that's saying sponsorship as well as mentorship, both can work. Yes. Okay.
It's very important. It's important you have someone where you're interested in who will speak for you in that room that you cannot enter, or you don't have the opportunity of being in. Sponsorship is key. And one of the ways or the main way to achieve this is being visible, being
Yes.
intentional. If you don't go out to ask for those things, no
How-
one even, no one will know that, you need those things. Yeah.
Yes. One of the interesting things you mentioned was that example of the lady you helped who grew her business from the 5 people she employed to various other locations and naturally more people. It makes us think that we might be having so many women at grassroots levels where we're missing opportunities to sort of catapult them and help them achieve their full potential. How can, in addition to sort of the projects that you've been involved in, what are your thoughts on how governments can help these sort of, sort of startups, as so to speak, grow and achieve their potential? What sort of, economic policies can they help with?
Yeah, can I just take that again? I had a distraction. My son just came back from school.
Yes, not to worry. All I'm saying is you mentioned that example of the lady who your project had helped. And it made me think that there might be so many other people who are missing out at that grassroots level on achieving their full potential. How can governments create more inclusive economic policies for women to help in this space, in addition to organizations such as yourselves?
Oh, okay, thank you. I think for the governments, they must ensure that women are part of policy design. At that stage of policy design, it's very important that women are not just seen as recipients of policies. Government has to give women a table, seats on the table at the policy design stage. Okay, that means inclusive procurement. That will mean that women are heard. When women are given seats at the table of policy design, they're able to present issues that affect them in business. Things like tax incentives for women-led SMEs, for example, public childcare support, just enforcing anti-discriminatory policies that will enable women thrive in business. Things like anti-discriminatory policies in credit and lending, for example. Do you know that, okay, from my experience in the banking industry in Nigeria, there's this bias about lending to women. That's reality. Because, I don't know, culturally, we just feel that women don't have the capacity to handle funds. But that's not even correct. Women have more tendency to repay facilities. I think it's fact because from my experience, I've never chased any woman for repayment of every loan like we do chase the men. I'm sorry for that. I'm very sorry, but culturally, people believe that women. No, very sorry. I don't.
It's fair if it is,
To be
your
honest,
experience.
people feel uncomfortable lending to women. So I think it's very important that governments come up with policies that enforces anti-discriminatory laws in access to credit and capital for women. Then inclusion must be embedded in budgeting, planning, accountability generally. So there's now the government looking at the way policies are made. I don't think we'll make a lot of progress. So it's very important that government looks into bringing in women at the policy design stage. I think it will change a whole lot of things.
A lot of things. I'm conscious of time, but you are very popular, Weluche, and there are loads of questions coming on along the right-hand side. I have one last question, if that's okay. And that's only almost, it's an interesting point from your personal experience is, you've achieved so much in the industry that you are in. You have got a breadth of knowledge, a breadth of experience.
Yeah.
What, if you can highlight even, what is the one thing that has helped you along the way as a woman to get where you have got to?
Okay. believing in myself.
Yeah.
Because you find out that many times women also limit themselves. You know, we have to really get to the point where we trust in our ability to do whatever we have set our minds to do. From my experience, a lot of women are also reluctant to even embark on some roles in the bank, for example. For example, a typical woman will tell you, I want to be in operations in the banking industry. They don't want to go out there chasing customers, talking to people, receiving all the no's and feeling defeated and all that. But for me, I just love to embrace challenges. When I was being moved from operations to sales, you know, my mates then would ordinarily not want to take on such challenge, but I would always want to take on the challenge, watch how the men are doing it. Marketing is not just for men, it's for everybody. And I can tell you that I don't think there's anyone, if I'm to be in the bank again, I don't think there's anything you offer me that will make me to be a back office staff. I'd rather be out there chasing customers, networking, building relationships, helping people grow their business. So I think it's believing in myself and believing in my ability. And another thing that has really, really helped me is collaboration. I collaborate a lot with people in my sector, people outside my sector, and just learning, just being open to learning. I learn everything.
I think you've hit the nail on the head.
I don't limit
believing,
myself, I learn everything.
there you go. And it's that
Yeah.
believing in yourself. I think the collaboration also comes from believing in yourself, having self-confidence and resilience,
Yeah.
and a very go-getter positive attitude. And I can see that coming through from whatever you're saying, Weluche. It just shines through. So it's just, amazing. Thank you so much. And what a beautiful, beautiful way to start today. And so much to learn from as well. So Weluche, thank you so much. But there are questions on the chat if you are okay to stay on and answer on the chat, if that is okay.
I'm here.
Thank you, Weluche. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hina.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Everyone for listening.
Thank you. Right. My goodness. What an epic start to today. And we're going to build on it because next we have our second speaker of the day, who is Nana, and he is going to be talking to us about women in media and storytelling, shaping national narratives. So yet another different industry that we are going to learn about today and the impact on and for women within this industry. So who is Nana? Let's learn a little bit about him before we hear from him. Nana is a filmmaker, media entrepreneur, digital technologist, and innovator focused on storytelling, cultural preservation, and legacy documentation. He's the founder of Accucom, which is a revolutionary AI-driven platform digitalizing storytelling by integrating AI, voice recognition, and augmented reality to preserve personal and cultural legacies. So relevant to today's world with AI just being at the forefront. Nana's actually got over 18 years of experience across telecommunications, film production, and digital storytelling. He's played a key role in optimizing Africa's largest core transmission network, achieving 30% bandwidth savings, and developing tools for network efficiency. Within media, he's led to the creation of Cinematics NG, which is a premier production company working with well-known names, producing documentaries, live events, and immersive storytelling experiences. He has extensive accolades beyond media production, as you can see in front of you right now, as a leader and speaker, as well as an educator and a mentor. His achievements have earned him rightfully and well-deservedly the recognition among Nigeria's 60 most influential event professionals and awards at the Real-Time International Film Festival. Nana, we are truly honored to have you with us here today. The floor is yours.
Thank you, that's so much. Thank you, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity. Thank you, Noella. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you for every member of the team at the Growth Conference. Fantastic conference. It's a privilege and an honor to be blessed amongst women and to be part of the story about women. And I don't take it for granted. Really, I don't. It's a good thing to have a few men who understand women and then who are going to be part of the process and the progress to move the motion forward. Thanks a lot for the introduction. My name is Nana Adim. I'm a digital technologist and a storyteller. So I'm a storyteller by heart and also by skill in terms of what I do. But I tell more stories behind the scene than in front of the camera. I'm more a behind the scene kind of person than in front of the camera, because from the few years I've been living on Earth, I've come to realize that there's a lot of stories yet to be told. So with my skill set and my experience in engineering, coupled with media enterprise, I'm now focused on telling stories and then helping, us and Africans to preserve their heritage through storytelling. There was a story my mother told me some years back that in our village, somewhere in Imo State, in Nigeria, there was a family, there were two families that had this rivalry of land ownership, was the land ownership dispute. And it had been on for about 25 to 30 years. And it became so intense that the rivalry had moved from one generation to the next generation, and it was still going on. And they were at a point, so they've gone through the local village council dispute resolution, and it wasn't resolved. And they've gone through court, it wasn't resolved, and they've gone through different levels of resolution, and it wasn't resolved. And they came to the point where it was at daggers drawn moment when anything could have really, really gone really wrong and really bad with the entire family. But someone saved the day. Someone somehow, somewhere remembered that there's a grandmother to one of the families who was alive when the land issue actually happened, when the ownership of the land took place. And somehow, somewhere, they were able to bring her into the picture. She stood where women are not supposed to be, because in most of African cultures, women are not supposed to be in the same gathering with men, especially when it has to do with land. We literally mentioned it earlier that, women don't own land, talk less about knowing ownership, but because the people in that generation were no longer available, and she was a witness to how the land ownership came to be. She stood and told a well-detailed story of the narration and the ownership and the history of the land up to date, to the point that it was her narrative that actually saved the day, saved the problem, and the issue was resolved among the families, and that was how that story was resolved. So women in storytelling cannot be overemphasized. Women are very, very needed in nation building and in storytelling across the world, because when women tell stories, they don't just tell stories, they preserve memories. And almost in our families, it's mostly the mothers that remember the things that happen to the kids, the children, as compared to the fathers, because most time, generally men are always out there hustling, but women are more humble to understand and capture every story of what happens in the house as compared to the men. So women actually keep stories in terms of memory keeping, and then they build families, they help use their story to heal wounds, and then definitely build nation. Because back in my village then, that would have been a story that would have been a story that would have, scattered the whole family, but a woman was able to resolve that. So the power of women's voices in storytelling is very, very, very important. So again, families, because I'm big on families, so I will always, refer back to family, because again, family is the most minute version of a nation and a people, because a nation starts from different families. So women in families definitely are storytellers, because when they speak, people get to listen to them. In the society generally, if I can give a few examples in the industry, Oprah Winfrey, we all know, is a very good storyteller. She was able to, in her 25 years of media experience, she was able to tell good stories of all the people around her and even her life story as well. And she was able, through media and storytelling, she was able to change, how the world view trauma by addressing so many traumatic experiences across, different people from different ethnic groups. Malala, if we remember Malala, the young girl that was shot, a few years, with her stories, she was able to change the world's view on girl education. I remember she was shot because girls were not allowed to study in her culture, and she actually wanted to study. Chimamanda Adichie, that's a Nigerian storyteller that we know. In her quest for storytelling through writing, she has reframed feminism for Africa and beyond through storytelling, through writing of books. So women as nation builders through storytelling are also home builders, because that's the first political institution before we get to the nation, and it cannot be overemphasized. Mothers shape values, beliefs, and identity. I remember in this same line of storytelling and belief and identity, when I was about 19 years and 20 years, I just finished school and I went to another location to visit my cousins, and I stayed with them because they were older cousins, and I got influenced, with my older cousins who were in their 25s and 30s, and I got into smoking. I started smoking with them for just a 2 or 3 weeks holiday break. I started smoking. I started, engaging in young people's vices for that short period of time. And it was so interesting that when I got back home, the first 2 days, because it was a habit that I formed just over a short period of time, I started smoking in the house. So the very first day I went out to smoke in our house, and I came back, it was my mom, and it was my mom that opened the door, and she perceived the smell of smoke. She grabbed me like this and perceived, and she now felt that she realized that I actually went out to smoke. She fell on the ground and started weeping, started rolling on the ground. Trust African mothers, typical African mother. She started rolling on the ground. My son has finished. My son is finished. This and that, this and that. That was the very last time I ever had a cigarette in my life. So many years ago. Her positioning, her willing actually shaped my identity, and I can actually say my health, because knowing the health risk of engaging in such vices, that was the very last time I had a cigarette in my hand. So mothers help to build identities, more especially when they tell stories. Especially stories about if we have grandmothers who are with us, who can tell stories about our culture and our heritage, we definitely know that most of these things, they actually capture these stories and they were able to tell it to different families and different generations. Women also in nation building help preserve truth across generations. Women tell stories in terms of context and in terms of values, and they bring national, honor to a nation when they remember these things through history, through time. I'm reminded of Funmilayo Ransome Kuti, a Nigerian politician back in the days, the mother of Fela Kuti. She used newspapers to fight colonialism, and she was able to make an impact in Nigeria so many, many years ago. And there is also, in the Middle East, there's also Nawal Saadawi, who also wrote about truth under censorship, and she was able to make a very, very, very great impact. In South Africa, there is also Miriam Makeba. Remember Miriam Makeba, the song star, and then the writer also. She also spoke about apartheid globally, and through her storytelling in music, she was able to change things and also draw more attention towards apartheid. And that was also part of the reason, why the change in politics was also effective. In recent times, we have Mo Abudu in Nigeria, who is also a very good storyteller, mostly referred to as maybe the Oprah Winfrey of Nigeria or Africa. But Mo has been rebranding the African storytelling through screen. So from talk shows to her own studios and now to her own originals, to her own movies. The Ebony Live film industry has actually produced a lot of movies that are telling positive stories about Africa, about Nigeria, as compared to the stories about Africa and Nigeria that can be told from other climes. In USA, we'll have Ava DuVernay. She's also a documentary and race injustice storyteller through her documentary films. So she's been able to make a lot of policy impact through her films about racism. Okay. And then in Senegal, also down here in Senegal, we have Rokhaya Diallo, who also speaks very, very eloquently about race and gender. And in her delivery, she's able to make impact in policies and all the things that has to do with race and gender down in Senegal. So if in women's representation in media, according to Global Media Monitoring Project, only 25% of people we hear on the radio, TV, on newspaper, on the big screen are women. 25 only are women. That was a study that was done in 2020. UNESCO also came up with a study that only 15% of experts featured in media are women. So that's in comparison to the study that was done by also women of study in television and film. They did also another study in 2023 that 27% of key women in behind the scene roles are just women. So we're looking at directors, film producers, writers, only 27% are women. I know the saying that what a man can do, a woman can do better, right? So I'm sure that there are a whole lot of women who can do some of these directing roles or editing roles or scripting roles better than men, but it's only 7% that are represented in media production. Only 17% of top grossing films in 2023 had a female protagonist in it. This is according to USA Inclusion Initiative research. So you see, what does this actually mean? So it means that nations are being shown through half the lens of what people are supposed to see. What we're seeing is not the entire truth that we should see, because mostly women are not well represented in producing these stories and bringing the stories to life. Okay, and stories are not balanced, because if women are not well represented, then the stories are not balanced. Definitely not. So there are stereotypes in representation, and representation of women most times are actually very, very weak. So when women are missing in media and storytelling, so many things happen. Gender myths are going unchecked. So a lot of things that are tied to the myth surrounding women, they're not being checked, because women are not actually there to say their own part of the story. So that myth just continues. Then violence is normalized. Violence against women is normalized, which is not good. Then domestic roles are glorified while leadership is ignored. So domestic roles, I understand. I remember one presidential person that said women are actually, that his wife, which was supposed to be the first lady of the country, is meant to be in the other room. That was a joke then, but it wasn't really, it was not funny at all, because you can't relegate women to the other room. So most times women are relegated to domestic roles, just in the kitchen and the other room, while in leadership, they're not well represented. So we can count how many female presidents we've had in the whole world as at the moment. Public memories could also get distorted because women are not well represented. These are some of the challenges that actually happen when women are not well represented. And we can see that in most of the Nollywood films and the Bollywood films that actually come out. Most times women ambitions are villainized, Women are, when a woman is very ambitious, it's almost like there's always something behind it. And the leadership is masculinized. Most times the leader should be a man. But I remember this movie that actually made waves You know why it made waves? Because it was promoting women.
Can anybody hear Nan? I can't hear him anymore.
I was just about to ask the same. I think I've lost audio, but I thought it was just myself.
Very bold and
There he
strong
is.
light compared to, you know,
Oh, I believe we lost him again.
Yes.
He's back. He's on mute though. Nana, I think you might be on mute. There you go.
oh, network threw me out. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we
So I
lost
can
you for
just
like 30 seconds.
30 seconds, that's a long time.
You were
Okay.
talking about leadership being masculinized in movies and women who are ambitious being viewed in a negative role.
Fantastic. Okay, great. So I went ahead to mention a movie that is called Women King, that was acted by Viola Davis. That was a movie that was that had a lot of, you know, views and a lot of grossing in the box office, because it now started presenting women in a different light. And I also remember the women warriors in the movie Wakanda Forever, right? So they actually were showing women in a good light, women in power, women with strength, the women that can actually defend a nation. And it was actually the women that defend the city of Wakanda and then brought down their enemies. So what do we need to do? We need to rewrite scripts with real female complexity. We have to make sure that we get women to be able to be part of the script writing and to tell their own victory stories as well. So we need to train women more in the editing rooms and then in the story room, you know, so that they'll be part of these stories and they can also tell more stories about women's win. And I remember the movement that came up some years ago, Me Too. Remember that movement, right? It was of course about the experiences of women in different industries. So this kind of movement should be able to probably come more often to show that women also needs that attention and needs that recognition that they deserve. And that's a balance in whatever is also given to men as well. So in technology, women should also be given, you know, the opportunities to tell their stories very well. There shouldn't be gatekeepers. And I'm happy with the advent of technology now, with advent of social media, you know, most women can actually speak up and actually tell their own story by themselves, and there's not so much, you know, gatekeeping. And that's also what I'm doing with Akocom, which is a platform that help people to document their stories, families to document their stories from generation past till date. So women are now allowed to tell their stories by themselves without actually checking it, or without someone checking, you know, their stories and gatekeeping them and all that. So in a nutshell and in conclusion, we need to also get government to support women-led documentaries. So government need to provide funding, need to provide training for young girls who are also into digital storytelling, who are also into filmmaking, so they can, you know, promote more, you know, stories around women. So we need to also create some national storytelling labs, you know, dedicated to women, so they will have, you know, right of passage and right to the labs to be able to tell their own stories as well. And using AI, we should be able to see how we can use AI to document untold stories across different geographies and also in different dialects. So with AI now, dialect is not a barrier, language is not a barrier. You should be able to document your stories and preserve them for generations to come. And we should be able to celebrate women as story keepers, not just men. You know, women should also be celebrated as story keepers, not just men. Definitely there should be legislation and legislation that will support women leadership in major roles that are only known to be given to men. So in governing bodies and in associations and in ministries, women should be allowed by legislation to take up these roles, and then to see how we can bring more change and more inclusion for women in storytelling. So thank you so much. As we build the nations together, let's always remember that women are good storytellers. I know women are better storytellers than men, right? So I have 4 sisters and a mother and a wife, so I know a lot about storytelling from women. So it's now time for us to take this storytelling to the main stage, to the mainstream, so that countries and nations and industries should be actually impacted positively from the stories from women. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nana. Oh my goodness, what an insightful session. And I must say, Nana, when you talk about your personal experiences, I think that makes it, for me personally, it resonates so much. I mean, you talked about, the impact your mum had on you when she figured out you were smoking. And I think you said typical African mothers. I will turn around and say, I think that's typical mothers everywhere. And I say that from experience, because my closest uncle, who is like a brother to me, he did the same. He came home one day with a little smoke in his hand, and his mother, my grandmother, read him the Riot Act. He has not done it since. So it's so nice to hear these stories, and it resonates so well in that it made me think back, even growing up. Actually, it was more the females and the women in our family who told us stories and told us stories about history, about family history and general history. So you know what? It's just so spot on. I have got to ask you a personal question, though, because you spoke about family, and I thought I knew the answer to this, but I could be wrong. So you have achieved what you have achieved in media and storytelling so far. In your personal life, which female figure has had the most impact in shaping you as you are today?
I would definitely say my mom. You already know the answer,
Well, when you said 4 sisters and wife, I started wavering.
No, I mean, it's my mom, because even before I knew anything, she already had stories about me, and she kept them, and she's been the one telling the stories beyond. She knows a lot more about me beyond what my sisters and my wife would know. I mean, I remember a very interesting story that I never forget. My mom told me that when I was small, maybe about 4 years or 5, I always like watching cartoons or whatever is happening on the TV screen, right? I mean, maybe that's why I turned out to be a cinematographer. So I always enjoy watching it. I'll be so engrossed on the screen that at one time I was watching the TV and the light went off. So in Nigeria, the light is by NEPA, like, the NEPA is the company that provides light. The light went off and I couldn't see the TV screen. Being a little child, I didn't know what light meant and all of that. All I knew was that I couldn't see the TV screen. So, and I know that then the only way to provide light was when light goes off, you get a lantern, you turn on the lantern, and then you can see. So when the screen went off, I started screaming. I started telling them to bring the lantern. I can't see the TV. They should bring the lantern. I need to see the TV, Oh my God, like, she remembers this story till tomorrow. Like, and I still remember the story,
There you go, the
So
innocence.
it's,
Yeah, that is
you know,
fantastic. I thought it would be your mum, but I think for many it would be their mums, wouldn't it? I think
yeah.
Noella, you have your hand up. Do you have a question for Nana?
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, that was a great storytelling presentation. I mean, you told us a lot of story while you were making your presentation. So that was storytelling in itself. Thank you so much, Nana. I mean, that was very relaxing, It was stimulating intellectually, but relaxing. Now, what I want to know is, I know that I have seen you talk about ACOCOM on Facebook and all of that, but could you just tell us what ACOCOM is about and what really prompted you to begin this project, ACOCOM?
Okay. So AkoCom is a platform that helps families document their life stories from generation past till date, carefully preserving them for generations to come. Stories in terms of text, pictures, audio recordings, and then video, importantly. So what inspired me to build AkoCom was back in 2020, just before COVID, as a cinematographer and a filmmaker, I was very busy doing a lot of films, producing shows, concerts, weddings, and all of that. And then I wanted to talk about my father-in-law, who is a very, very interesting personnel, who's got a hospital and he's a phenomenal person. I mean, he's a doctor that owns his own hospital. He actually can stop on the road and we see somebody with goiter and say, do you want to take it out? Is it paining you? He'll take you to the theater and just take it off, and he's just good like that. In his church back in Port Harcourt, he's got the vicar and the priest and the whole family under retainership, free medication. So I was going to capture his story, get him to 1 or 2 surgeries, and also, get to understand his life entirely on film. But I couldn't do it. Unfortunately, January 2020, he took it and died suddenly. We lost him. So with that as a pain point for me, and being that my kids were still very young then, so they didn't even get to meet him very well, and they don't even know him very well. So I've now taken it personally on me to start preserving, to advocate and tell people about documenting their life stories while their family members are still around, because there'll be a time when they will not be around. And so with that, I was able to now go to film my own dad's stories and my own mom's stories from start to finish, their life history, and they were able to talk about stories that happened as far back as they can remember, their own parents and their own grandparents, like 4 or 5 generations before us, things I never knew about. So I got them on tape, I got them recorded. So because I'm also a filmmaker, I came to realize that there's so much people I can reach, documenting their videos with a professional camera. So the best way to do this is to create an app that is definitely positioned for this, so that families can now, on their own, create their stories and then preserve them for generations to come. And that's what we're doing with AkoCom, especially with those in the diaspora, families in the diaspora, or who have moved across different platforms. If your families are scattered because of migration, to different locations, it's a good place to get everybody's story together, and then to document your migration story and your family stories, so that this can be preserved for tomorrow generation. Because we know with social media and with what's going on online, the next generation will have a lot of data with them. And that if care is not taken, they will lose their identity, they will lose their heritage, they will lose their value and their legacy. So we need to have a safe space to keep these things. And it's not definitely for social media. It's not everything that should be on social media, but everything in a family should be documented for good, gatekeeping for tomorrow.
So this is meant to be a private content, is it?
Yes, definitely private content, just, accessed by the family alone. So
Okay.
it's only the family that can access the content, yes.
And it's as simple as downloading the app. And for example, if I download the app and follow the instructions, this is absolutely exciting.
Is the app available right
Yes.
now?
So we're doing the MVP. So we're doing the beta testing. It's available. We have about 150 users now. So it's available for a closed user for now. Very soon, we're going to make it available for the entire public. So now just a closed user group, about 150 users, about 50 families that are doing the testing on it now. So before we make it open to the general public, so that everybody from any walks of life can actually download it and then use it to document their family stories. Yes.
Absolutely fantastic. I must say that's something I'm just immediately interested in, just to preserve
Honestly.
that history being away from my birth country.
This is very important, and it really hits home, because just before my mom passed, I was actually planning to interview my mom and my dad to get some pieces of information about their lives that we didn't know. And my mom also died suddenly, and I never got to do that. And just recently, I was discussing with one of my siblings, and I was like, I had wanted to do this, but I think I procrastinated for too long. Of course, I didn't live in the same city with my mom or my dad, but I was thinking that on one of the occasions of when I would return for holiday, I'll just take a notebook and document their lives. And because, there was so many things we didn't even know about their own families, but we never got to document all these things. So this is a very good one, really. People really need to preserve their own history, because like you said, migration is happening, people are migrating to different places, but at the end of the day, we all want to know our roots, we want to identify with our roots, So well done. So we're going to talk more about this, Nana. Yeah, we're going to talk more about this after the conference. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nana. There are more questions, but I'm also conscious of time. Having said that, there is one important question that has popped up. And if you don't mind, if I can ask you that question before we then fine, fantastic. So how can media be leveraged to promote gender equality and social change?
So media can be used, and media should be used to promote social change and gender equality by getting more people who understand, gender equality, getting more individuals who are inclined to that, who are advocates of that, to be on the platforms and to be very visible, to be vocal, to be able to talk about these things, and creating content that addresses these scenarios. Most times people don't just accept something they hear once. I mean, that's the logic behind adverts. When you're seeing an ad like Coca-Cola, you get to see Coca-Cola ad so many times. Subconsciously, when you're thirsty, you just think about Coca-Cola because you've seen the ad subconsciously so many times, and it's tied to thirst. So women and gender equality and all these vices needs to be woven into stories and presented from different influencers and different platforms and different storytellers to everyone on social media, using print media, digital, TV, radio, all the different social media platforms. By speaking about these things constantly and frequently, it will now start going into the subconscious of everyone that is listening. And before you know it, they will now actually start, because whether we like it or even the lawmakers are also on social media listening, But if you start going into the subconscious, with time they can now start influencing. It will start influencing how they make laws that will impact, women in these areas.
Yes, and that is immediately a straightforward way to almost, for lack of a better word, normalizing it. So the more frequently you hear it, that is what's going to stick in your mind. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nana, for an amazing session. I'm getting a lot of love for this session on the chat. There are more questions coming up on the chat if you're happy to stay on. And of course, please, can you share your handles, your LinkedIn handle, your Insta handle, and just anything where we can even be updated on the app as and when it's ready, which I assume might be on your LinkedIn profile as well. So please do share your LinkedIn handles. Weluche, thank you for sharing your LinkedIn handle. And I'd encourage all our delegates just to connect with our speakers, all to do with networking and being out there. So thank you so much, Nana, for your time this evening, for the insight this evening. And boy, have I learned something new. Lots of things that I knew. So thank you so much. A warm thank you for Nana. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
fantastic. I would like to now introduce Thank you. I would now like to introduce our third speaker for the evening, Susan Chibanga, who is going to be talking to us about education and skills development and empowering the next generation of women leaders. So Susan joins us from Zambia, and she is a leader in Agora Microfinance Zambia and plays a pivotal role in empowering rural communities. Since joining as CFO in 2016, she has risen to become CEO, leveraging her expertise in governance and leadership to drive the organization's growth, Her strategic vision has solidified Agora's position as a leading provider of financial services to smallholder farmers and small traders in Zambia. Outside of this role, Susan actively contributes to the broader microfinance sector as president of the Association of Microfinance in Zambia and treasurer of the Microinsurance Technical Advisory Group. So let's give Susan a warm welcome. And Susan, if you're okay to have your camera on, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hina. Thank you. I am so privileged to be speaking today. Thank you so much, Noella, for the invitation again. I know that the Growth Conference Southern Africa chapter was really, really awesome. And at this conference, happy anniversary to the Growth Conference. Happy anniversary. Congratulations, Noella. It's not easy. It's not easy. I know that, but you and the team have done it. You have shown up, you have delivered, and you are carrying us along. This train is really going far. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. May I put a disclaimer to everybody? My apologies. My daughter seems to be lacking some sleep today. It's late, but she is with me apparently because I was out in the field. So when I've just come back, she seems to just want to be close to me. So if you hear some noises, please bear with me. Thank you so much.
It's part of
Wow.
It's part of inclusivity.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay.
That's it. And we
Indeed.
cannot. It is a pleasure to have your daughter next to you, and we cannot fault her for missing you. So no problem.
Thank you so much. Yeah, listening to Oluche, listening to Nana, I'm just left in awe of the, the insights that have been shared, the knowledge that is here, and I'm really humbled. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and really taking up from Nana. Yeah, storytelling. The topic, I was like, oh wow, I would like somebody talking about sciences. Then you realize that's actually my background. Can you hear me? I can see Noella trying to speak.
Yes, it's just
Can you hear
breaking
me?
up. It's breaking up a bit. So it's not too clear.
Yeah.
Susan, it says that your bandwidth is low. I don't know.
I think she may be trying to rejoin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nana, have you shared your LinkedIn handle?
I'm
Hello?
doing it now. I'm doing it right.
Okay. Okay. And any information on ACOCOM that you can share with the audience would be nice.
Okay, good. I'll share a waiting list link so people can join the waiting list for the final version. Yes.
Okay, great.
I think we have Susan back again.
Is she back?
Yes, I saw her pop up just
I
now.
can see her name, but I can't see
Yes.
her face. I think
Hello? Can you hear me now?
we
Yes.
can hear you, Susan.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Noella?
Yes, we
Very
can,
well.
Susan.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I was saying taking up from Hina. Okay. Yeah, taking up from Nana. I just realized actually my own story the background is actually the STEM industry. That is where my education has been. So when I was in secondary school, I took up STEM subject. Necessarily that is what I wanted. But I think because of the I was put in a STEM class, but then I followed that even through university and studied through in the science classes, taking up the sciences. And out of that, then it really opened up my mind. And later on, I got to study finance. But of course, I can tell that when we were in those STEM classes, and of course, at university, very few ladies were there. It was really male dominated. Those that wanted to be engineers, those that wanted to be medical doctors, and whatever professions that would be there, mathematicians, computer science. It was really male dominated. Today, I think we have a change in that narrative, and I'm very, very impressed to see strides that have been made, even if it is not so much, but at least we are headed somewhere. From what we have also heard today, I think it just confirms how women really help to drive economic growth. Today, we can see working for Agora Microfinance, of the people in those areas that are actually engaged in trade are women on the ground, but still very much marginalized in terms of access to finance. So you will find many of the women will actually be taking up very small loans and not the bigger facilities that have been mentioned earlier on around women not being able to write for collateral. But one thing that I see actually, and this I relate it with our upbringing in most cultures, is that when we are growing up, many women are constantly faced with the word no. Whatever you want to do, no. No. So there's a constant limit. There's a constant limitation to our dreams.
Susan,
Whereas when you look at the boy child, when
sorry,
they are growing.
Susan, apologies
Hello,
for interrupting. Apologies for interrupting you. I think you might want to switch off your video if you don't mind. It might increase your bandwidth and improve the sound a bit. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I can. That would be better. Let me try that.
Let's try. Sorry.
Okay, please let me know if that gets better.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Thank you.
I can hear you. I can hear you too.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I was saying, as women, in our upbringing, we are constantly faced with the word no. What boundaries, that are those natural biases that are placed on the woman, and a woman is given a specific place, whilst the men are actually asked to, or encouraged to explore the world, dream big, and see what you can achieve. And I think it starts from there. But ultimately, I see that this narrative changes in adulthood, because then women begin to want to see how they can be empowered. But because their foundation is not solid, that is where now these limitations come into play. As a woman, I've already heard that I cannot own land. I've constantly heard a no, and therefore I place a limitation. on my dreams and what I can want to achieve, but yet I know that I do have the ability to perform. You know, when I look at the way human beings have evolved, today when we're talking about gender parity, and when we are talking about bringing the woman to the table, it's not over the other, no, but it's actually looking at how the dynamics have evolved and realizing that the woman is actually key, because where we are coming from, it was a lot of war. The industries themselves did not allow for the woman to sit. Whatever economic activities that were there did not allow for the woman to move out of the boundaries of their home. They needed to sit. So it was a lot around the physical aspects of the world. But today, the narratives have changed. And because the narratives have changed, therefore, it demands that women's voices should be heard on the table. When you look at consumer spending, because the women are very much engaged in trade, the women are the ones that are at the forefront of making the budgets, adjusting the budgets, deciding on how much is going to be spent in a home. And ideally, that also gets up into the economic levels in the country. You see that globally, women control and influence a vast majority of the consumer spending sector, and thereby contributing to GDP. Innovation and decision-making, women do bring diverse perspectives and skills to the table, fostering creativity and improving corporate decision-making processes. Gender diversity in leadership has always been linked to enhanced business performance. Women also play a very key role in poverty reduction. Women are more likely to invest their earnings. Women are more likely to build lives that are very resilient. And usually women also don't focus on immediate gains. We are very strong on delayed gratifications, and that really helps for us to be able to build resilience and therefore plow back and invest in our communities, improving access to education. I am a testament because my mother, I can give this example, especially in education. Every time in the cold season, nobody wants to get out of bed to actually go out in the cities. And so we understood the trick, me and my sisters, that if it is dad who is coming to wake us up in the morning, we would definitely fall sick that morning. And he will buy into it. And he will be like, it's okay. You can actually sleep. You will go to school tomorrow. It is fine. But if it is mom who comes, she turns the story and she will tell you alone and be warm. That I put tea for you in the flask. You can carry hot tea at school. And when you come back, I promise you, you will have time to sleep. But make sure that you are going to school. You are not staying in my house. You are going to school. Constant education. And I see that a lot in many, many homes. Talk about healthcare. For all of us who can attest to the fact that our mothers were the first nurses, wherever the instinction just comes from, for them to be able to nurture, and overall, our living standards are usually improved by women. And therefore, I find that empowering women really does bring a difference and help.
Have you lost sound, Noella?
Yes, I think the network has cut her off. but this story is quite interesting.
It
Reminds me
is.
of my mom.
I think it might remind many of us of the same, where you have one parent who is
Huh?
not going to listen to anything
Oh, my
else.
mom was that person. My mom was that person. Oh, yeah. It's just the same across board. It's so
It's
interesting to see how similar we are, honestly.
and it's having that support network that pushes you that step further.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sorry for that.
Welcome
Yeah.
back, Susan.
So thank you. My internet is really
Thank you, Susan.
acting up. Sure.
I think you were telling us the
Yeah,
interesting
but
story.
coming back to the topic. Yes, indeed. So I was saying, in talking about access to finance, I think I would not dwell so much on this topic because I think Weluche did do justice to this topic. So I would just move on. Strategies for overcoming gender-based economic barriers. I think for me, I always tell myself that, when we want to include the woman on the decision-making table, we have to make sure that we understand her environment. And we have to make sure that we are supporting her in her environment. I've seen in certain cultures, when you're actually talking about giving women positions, they think it's a fight between a woman and a man. It is also perceived that we want to doing what men would do, and probably men just sit at home, and that is not the case. I've come to realize that if the woman does not have enough support, and her support system is the man, her family, in order for her to be able to thrive in whatever else that she needs to do in her dreams, especially these two key issues, the man and also her family, being key to the woman, we should make sure that when we are bringing the woman to the table, we are also carrying these two spaces along. How do we support the woman in order that she can thrive in her home, in her family, and she can also thrive with her relationships with the man, but at the same time be able to thrive? Because I think that is the biggest barrier that would be there for the woman. Then we can see how we can empower the woman in terms of whatever properties that she may own, letting her and the man understand that she too has the equal right. Breaking all the barriers to funding, limited access to networks and mentorship. Because uncharted, it's very rare that we can cross our boundaries of networking. We would limit ourselves to networking only with women and very limited networking with the men. But we all tend to network with everybody. And so we find that women in nature, we can get to face this as a barrier in terms of networking. And so we need a lot of mentorship opportunities. Again, I can give an example of myself. When I got into this role as CEO, I definitely understood that I needed to network beyond the boundaries of my office and go where some of these CEO conversations are held. Then I quickly realized the banking industry is actually male dominated. And believe you me, it's very hard to reach out to the men in the industry. Number one, they would see you as a threat. Or they just undermine that, you don't belong here. Or ideally, socially, it is perceived otherwise, that there's something else that you would need beyond that corporate relationship. So there's a lot of barrier in that aspect that I think we definitely need to see how these mentorship programs that do help the women. Yeah. Lastly, when we are talking about the STEM aspect, when I was researching on this topic, I came across 3 women that for me they were not so it's not so common to hear about them, but I think these are women that have really put up the records out there, and they have made a difference. So one of the women is actually Dr. Radia Pellman. Dr. Radia Pellman, they call her as the mother of internet. Today we talk about internet, but when I was researching on this topic, it was the first time that I came across this name. But over the years, I've actually used this internet and probably attributed it to other people. Of course, she may not be the only one, but she has really done commendable work in this space. She's an American computer programmer who invented network protocols and the spanning tree protocol, which is really the backbone of internet. The second woman would be Katherine Johnson, and she was the first African American to work at NASA, and she was a space scientist. The third woman is Grace Hopper, who was a computer pioneer and also a Navy officer. She is the one who programmed the programming language so that it can use English rather than mathematical characters. Why did I look at these 3 women? The first thing that actually comes out so strongly, what did they do? They tried to simplify these complex theories so that everybody can actually understand it very well. For me, really, most of the times that is what a woman does, breaking down anything that is so complex and making sure that everybody, every child, every person is included, every person can actually come on board and relate with everything else that is around them. And therefore, I strongly believe that we should be able to bridge the gap in STEM and leadership to make sure that women should be encouraged to come through in that space. Some of the things that can help in that aspect is early exposure and engagement, introducing girls early enough to STEM, making them comfortable to subjects at an early age, hands-on activities, hands-on engagements, challenging stereotypes, and fostering interests. Helping them to relate with role models and mentors, people that have broken barriers in this space, so we can increase visibility. The stories that Nan was talking about, so we can tell a lot more stories in STEM, about women that have broken those barriers and really increase that visibility of success for these women so that we can inspire them, to be role models, and establishing mentorship programs as well. Having inclusive curriculum and teaching practices. Previously we saw that in schools, especially like in my country, we would have schools that would separate. This is a boys' school, this is a girls' school. And you'd find that for the boys, there would be a lot of STEM subjects. And even now, even if we have made some work in making sure that we can also bring STEM in the girls' school, or rather mix them up, there's still so much that is yet to be done in order to be able to encourage the girl child. Creating inclusive environments, even just from our own homes, in order for us to be able to foster the classroom or workspace culture, in order for us to welcome. I must be able to mention at this point that, working for Agora Microfinance for me has really, because in our work, our field officers are required to ride on motorbikes 100 kilometers, in the field to the villages. And we have about 35% women, of which most of them are field officers, who are doing the work that initially would be regarded as work that can be done only by men. And we make sure that there is equal opportunity and equal pay in order to be able to encourage the women that there's nothing that they cannot do, that they are equal to the task and they can do it. So also having leadership development programs so that we are deliberate about bringing women to the table and seeing to it that we are making them competent and that we are making sure that their success is not based on the fact that I am a woman, but their success should be based on the fact that they are competent, that they are skilled enough, that they are knowledgeable enough, and that they qualify for the roles. Because ideally, it's not just the fact that I am a woman, that I should be able to be raised to those positions. Deliberate networking and peer support. Create and promote networks where women in STEM and leadership can connect and share their experiences and exchange ideas and find support. Addressing structural barriers, which earlier on I talked about, in terms of making sure, because I see some women and a lot of our women, even when I go around in my organization talking to the women, the greatest fear would be if I become so successful, will I get married? Is there a man who is actually going to want to live with me because I've become so successful? And so, breaking all those structural barriers and stereotypes would really help to make sure that the woman can actually thrive in these spaces. Promoting diversity and inclusion. And also, I also talked about challenging the stereotypes. A lot of policies, of course, that would need to be brought in by governments and also even the private sector as well, to make sure that women can actually thrive in these spaces, because definitely we do know women are national builders. Women can greatly contribute to economic growth. Women should be at the table. They should add their voices to decision making. Women have the ability to make it and to do what they need to do to thrive in the STEM environment. They just need not be placed in the corner. So thank you so much for that. And I can welcome some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much. What a well-rounded session covering so many relevant topics. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And that's a round of applause there. Susan, I think so many of the things you said resonated with what we have heard yesterday and today. You talked about having the support system for women so that they can thrive in their professional world whilst having the support at home. And we heard a similar sort of ethos yesterday when Sanjeev was speaking to us as well, when we was talking about women in healthcare. You mentioned even having the support and mentorship, so linking back to what Weluche had said. And it sounds like there's so many common messages that we are getting through this in terms of having that support system there, having the mentorship, and then that enabling us to thrive. You talked about STEM particularly and the gender gap in STEM, and you mentioned that in your experience, STEM has been a predominantly male-dominated role. And just thinking ahead, what can educational institutions do to also help bridge that gender gap in STEM for women, and also, in fact, in leadership training as well?
Thank you so much, Hina. I think for me, and of course, taking from my own experience, before we can talk about the education system itself, I think we should talk about the home. What should we do at home?
Yeah.
Growing up, and I mentioned earlier that, it was like I was I followed a STEM path, not by desire, but I could almost say by default. My mother started calling me a doctor when I was very young. This one is going to be my doctor. This one is going to be my doctor. And you know, when I went to secondary school, by default, because of my grades, I was automatically placed in a STEM class where I was able to learn all the STEM subjects. But I had an option, and my option was accounts, which is not really a STEM subject, and I thrived in both spaces. And so when I went to university, because of the words that my mother kept speaking, I believed I was going to be a doctor. And I just wanted to be a doctor. Unfortunately, I didn't make it for that cut to be a doctor. But I never gave up. I later on went to work, when I graduated, I went to work at our biggest mine. And that was the time when they opened the sulfuric acid plant. And I was the only female operator there. I remember my supervisor said, I want to make sure to make you the best operator in the sulfuric acid plant. And I was very excited. For 2 years, I worked there and it was very exciting. The experience was phenomenal. And I could just thrive in that space. And therefore, for me, I believe before we can talk about the education policies, let's talk about home, where we should be able to believe that the woman can also be and do and thrive in the STEM space. Then, of course, from the government, it's for us to be able to have those policies in place. The education system in itself should be able to support the woman, you know, to be able to, I've seen, like in our government, I've seen, in order for us to improve, or rather to encourage women to get into the STEM space, what the government has done is to slightly reduce cutoff points for girls, so that there are more girls that actually would get into the STEM space. The government has also supported the education system in such a way that we have seen maybe the Minister of Health being a woman, so that they can create role models in the industry, science and technology. At some point, we did have a woman. So the government also creates those policies so that it can be shown that it is possible to have women leading these sectors and these industries, telling stories like, you know, like Nana was saying. So I think and bringing out a lot of awareness campaigns that can actually help for people knowledge and understand that indeed women can thrive in this space.
Thank you, Susan. You are hitting each point on its head today for sure. Having a seat at the table, we have heard that again as well. Seeing similar people like yourselves in that space to encourage others. We've talked about that again. So such a common thread flowing through all of it. Thank you so much, Susan. One last question, Susan, if that's okay for you. As a female
Sure.
in a STEM role, personally, have you faced any barriers in terms of opportunities being a female, and how have you overcome them? And I think after that we might have a question from Noella as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes, indeed. So I can talk about my experience at the mines, where ideally I was the only female who was selected to actually be as part of the supervisors and working there. And I think one of the, or rather the biggest challenge that I faced personally was there was the stereotypes and the bias, because people came to me with already a preconceived idea that being a woman, I'm not able to do it. And I should not be in that space. That is not a place where you expect women to be. If women were in the STEM, they should be nurses. Something that is related to care and empathy. That is where a woman belongs. And you cannot be a critical thinker, or you cannot ideally manage very challenging situations. Like as a woman, you cannot manage crisis. You are not alert enough. You are not responsive enough for you to be able to react almost immediately to any situation. And to be honest, Tina, I must give a lot of credit to the men that have supported me along the way. Number one would be my husband. He has encouraged me throughout in whatever space that I would be. Secondly, most of my supervisors have actually been men who have taken it upon themselves to make sure that I can thrive in these spaces through mentorship. And I think that is very, very cardinal because it makes us be comfortable in that space. Tell me, don't men make mistakes? They do, but sometimes we tend to amplify the mistakes that women make and relate it to the fact that, oh, because she's a woman. But trust me, men make mistakes and they make a lot of mistakes. They have just found a way of justifying their mistake as a trial to get to the actual result. So I think that women, we also need to be comfortable in this space and understand that things are likely to go wrong, but it is not because you are a woman, but it is because by nature, by default, anything that you attempt to do is likely to go wrong. And therefore, you need to build this resilience for you to be able to ensure that you can be competent enough to manage whatever crisis that would be there. Yeah.
Thank you, Susan. It's quite amazing just hearing about your experience on that as well. Noella, I believe you have a question.
Well, mine is more of a contribution, really. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so mine is more of a contribution. You know, women seem to be the ones that hold these conversations about including women in the scheme of things, in decision making, and taking it down to the family, encouraging the girls, getting them to understand that what the boys can do. In fact, there's nothing like this is a guy's thing or this is a girl's thing. I don't have a girl, I have boys. I have 3 boys. And I get my boys to do everything, to learn everything. There's nothing my boys don't do. And they don't even see it as out of place. Now, the question is, how do we get the men to start holding this conversation? This is a platform for women. We have men who are supporting us. How do men take the initiative to hold these conversations among themselves? And just come to terms with the fact that it is time. It is time we just open the spaces. It is time we, we become more liberal with positions, leadership positions. It is time for us to get out. There was something that, I don't know if it was Susan that said it or Weluche. Somebody talked about women bringing their creativity to the table. There's a whole lot that women bring to the table. Our intuition, our multitasking nature, our resilience. Women women bounce back from setbacks faster than men. I'm not being biased here. Women go through a lot and you just see them bounce back and just keep moving as if nothing happened. There's a lot we can bring to the table. And these things are not learned from the textbooks or in any classroom. These are things that life teaches women. These are the same soft skills. I teach soft skills, So the top soft skills we teach, emotional intelligence, resilience, recovering from trauma, and all those kind of things. Women already have these things wired. They can bring these things to the table when it comes to decision making, when it comes to taking decision on your feet, on your toes, as a matter of fact. Women can bring quite a lot to the table too. How do men get to initiate these conversations? And not just women. Like I said yesterday, we can't achieve this thing on our own. We cannot. We need the men. Plus, the Growth Conference is not a place where we draw a gender battle line. It's not neither a gender battlefield either. That is why we have our men here. But it would be good if men spearhead these conversations. It would be good if men, because if the fire starts burning from different quarters, it will become an inferno after a while. It will burn even faster and harder, But it's just like women are the ones holding the conversation. Every time it is just the women, just the women, just the women. We also need the men to champion these conversations. It's going to help. It's going to get us closer to our goals. And just to chip in, we also have a project for girls in tech. It is called Tech for Her. It is where we create awareness in technology among girls in secondary schools. So we're meant to be having our boot camp during the long vacation. The first time we had it was 2 years ago, and we had it was a face-to-face conference. But this time around, the boot camp is going to be online, so that way we can actually involve girls from different countries. We can have a global reach, So this is our own way of also taking this down to the next generation. So we can expose young girls to technology so they can make informed decisions when they want to fill out their forms for university entrance examination. At least they can confidently say, yes, I want to do this, and because of this, I know women who have thrived in this area and things like that. But we just have to get our men to join us in spearheading these conversations. It will help a lot. Thank you so much.
I agree, Noelle. I think some do. I think we're saying we need that more, I suppose, as well.
We need that more.
Yeah, your comment on Tech for Her, if that's something that you could also share in the chat, that would be appreciated, because I'm sure there'd be many out there who are interested, if possible.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I will.
Susan, I must say a big thank you as well to you for your time today and for the knowledge you've imparted today. Thank you so much for that. In fact, thank you to all our 3 speakers. And again, please may I ask if you can put your handles in the chat function. I'm sure our delegates would be more than willing and very, very sort of keen to reach out to you. That actually brings us to a close for today's session, but please don't go. Please make sure that you still hang around while I tell you 2 things. Firstly, what we have in store for you tomorrow. So tomorrow is promised to be another fire session, absolute blazing session, which will be moderated by Gerald Kalyondo, and we will be covering topics such as women in corporate leadership. And we'll actually be touching on a point which we've discussed yesterday and today, the support role, the gender role, the gender roles in families and the support for women. So we've got a session on redefining gender roles for nation building. And we have another session on role of women in political leadership and governance that promises to be interesting as well. So please do make sure you join us here tomorrow, same time as today, I should say. And please do tell your friends, families, colleagues, follow TGC on LinkedIn and our YouTube channels. And before we sign off today, it would be lovely if we can have all our delegates switch on their camera and we can take a group photo so that we can have a memory of our session today. So please, can I ask everybody to put your cameras on? And I'm sure our team will tell us when we can smile and when the pictures have been taken. Thank you. I'm noticing while everyone's switching on their cameras, I know there are questions on the right-hand side in the chat. So please, can I also ask our speakers just to have a look at the questions? If it's pertaining to your topic, please do respond to our delegates. That would be very, very much appreciated. Right, can we have all our delegates put their cameras on? We'd love to see your lovely, lovely faces on this Friday evening. The weekend is here. Hi, Gerald. Nice to see you. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow as well. And please, can all our delegates come back in tomorrow? You have been absolute stars. We said thank you to the speakers, but thank you to all our delegates for attending and taking time out of your busy lives. I hope you've had as amazing a session, as educational a session as I personally have with our powerhouse of speakers. Thank you so much. And I will wait until I'm told that we need to smile and say cheese, I suppose.
Now is that time for us to smile and say
Perfect. Thank you.
all right.
Super. Thank you
Yeah,
so
we have the
much.
pictures. Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Emmanuel. Thank you,
Thank you,
Weluchi.
Manuel. And thank you to all our speakers. And we
Thank you,
look forward to
Nana.
seeing everyone here tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Nana. Thanks,
Susan.
Suzanne. Thanks, Felice. Good night. God bless.
Bye,
Good night,
everybody.